Why remake something when I can just reuse it?
Yeah, just like reusing a condom.
Wait, what?
From black shading to poor perspective, there are many things that could hinder you in your art journey. But the one thing that I've noticed time and time again is the constant complacency we let ourselves get buried in. Is it just a lack of drive, or is it something more? The constant repetition of our old work seems to hold us back, especially if you find success with it. You become afraid to break the mold or push yourself because what if they don't like it? Well, who's they? They is the little number of hearts or smiles sitting under that piece you just finished, almost like a monolithic reminder of your value, and it becomes a millstone tied to your neck. If you alter your style, if you change something, if you make something for yourself and not the beast, it will punish you. And not through physical means, but through your own perceived value. It's worth looking at ways to detect when you're getting into this mindset, and there are ways to fight back. So how can I detect when I'm becoming complacent? Usually, I'll notice my work falling into patterns. Basically, I'll redraw the same pose or use old work and just edit it to fit my needs. Now, some would call that resourceful, but to me, it's a shortcut, and isn't as fulfilling as making a whole new piece or composition. Another thing you'll notice is that you're only drawing one character. You know, the ones you're most comfortable with. Either it's because it's easy to draw, or you've done so much of it, it just becomes habit. I even noticed this when I was practicing with my band. We were working on writing new songs, and I realized the drummer kept doing the same pattern regardless of speed, and the guitarist fell back into a rhythm we were using for a different song. I even had that same kind of ick. I kept falling back into easy lyrics, so I put a stop to it, and said we need to practice something completely different. There is a saying, I'm not afraid of a man who's practiced 1,000 kicks once. I'm afraid of a man who's practiced one kick 1,000 times. That's from Bruce Lee. And just like Bruce Lee, I'm afraid of a man who's made the same drawing 1,000 times, because it would be a sign of severe autism. But seriously, in art, this is the complete opposite. If you drew one thing over and over again, you'll get better at drawing that one thing. But you won't get all the skills you need to draw anything else. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Art is not just a craft, it's a discipline. It's one that requires you to be well-rounded in your ability. It requires you not only to understand how to draw, but also requires you to know how to write a story with no words. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, think about how much of that is the story behind the work. How much of that is the story being told by the piece in question? It's why you shouldn't be practicing one thing over and over again. It's why your work becomes stagnant. It's why it makes your work worse. But it's not all sad sacks and lead paint chips. You can always push yourself to do better. When should you push yourself? All the time. I don't mean to take on projects larger than you can handle. I mean find your weak points and start hammering them out. It's like when I started to find ways to implement backgrounds, or when I did a complete redesign of Reed. His old look was definitely more deer-like, but not really fitting with the elements and themes of this story. It really doesn't hurt to change things in your work to better fit your liking. Sometimes you just gotta say fuck it and change everything. Even if your audience doesn't like it, you should be making art for yourself. I remember seeing this happen with an old YouTuber called Jordan Underneath. He started out as a game reviewer in a similar vein to Cat Icarus, but he focused more on horror games. Eventually he became bored with that style of video and came out with his short film This Is My House, a surreal story about a cosmic deity who steals objects and people from different universes. To me, this was a fantastic horror story, and really shows someone choosing their art over commercial profitability. Now, where will complacency affect my art the most? Usually I've noticed it creeps up in small areas like hands or symbol drawing. It could also affect you in your writing, such as using the same phrases or metaphors all the time. It's really easy to say good enough, but it doesn't leave much room for creativity, and definitely doesn't push you further as a creator. One spot where complacency has affected my work was my older video comics. I really didn't know how to draw big. It was always small sketches, and I'd crop everything down so everything was very small and blurry. Some say it's endearing, I say it's a product of complacency. The other thing that I've noticed is that it can be a contributing factor to burnout. When you make art, it should feel fulfilling, or at the very least pleasurable. When you're not pushing yourself, you'll start to feel inadequate. It's like going to the gym just to walk on the treadmill for 5 minutes with no incline. It's just not going to push you to do better. And it's going to make you feel like, well, what's the point? Whereas pushing past your limits is the entire point of art and weightlifting. But what can you do to battle complacency? A big part of my new process is to push myself in one aspect at a time. So either hands or mouths or expression. Basically anywhere where I feel like I'm lacking. Or you could do what every other Twitter artist does and make one thing and never change it. But that's up to you. Personally, I prefer to see my work grow and improve, especially from a visual standpoint. It's the whole point of working in a visual medium. You can immediately see your improvement by looking at your first pieces versus your last. Sometimes it's obvious what to improve, other times it's not. A good way to push your creativity forward is to start sketching quickly. Only take 5 to 10 minutes per sketch and move on. It's a better exercise than drawing the same character in the same pose with the exact same clothes and expression. In my opinion, it's like being a corpse in a bathtub, rotting in your own creative filth. Not my idea of fun, but you do you. You should always be pushing your work and trying new things, otherwise you'll end up like other stagnating artists, Twitter. Or you can start your next journey and really make a difference in your art and expression. Being complacent is detrimental to your work and creativity. It'll lead you to an early burnout and could even make you worse at art and expression. In conclusion, do better, eat a cinder block.